It's The Law with Morelli Chertko. My name is Howie. Joining me once again, one of the managing partners of Morelli Chertko, it is Lay Peterson. Lay, how are you?
I'm very good. Thanks for having me.
A very informative session we had last time on a number of different topics. Your area of expertise, you practice civil litigation, personal injury. We wanted to talk about the kind of damages that people are looking for in a personal injury claim.
Well, there are a number, obviously, and we're talking primarily about claims involving insurance with ICBC if it's a motor vehicle accident. And there's generally 5 claims. There's one for the injury. There's some claim for past income loss if you've missed some time from work. There's a claim for future losses of earned income, or what they call loss of capacity, which is quite an abstract sort of area. There's a cost of care claim if you need medical expenses or treatment into the future. Out-of-pocket expenses for you, which they call special damages. And then there's some other minor ones that arise in these cases as well, but those are the main ones.
What is the background of how personal injury claims arise?
Well, there's a number of different areas where personal injury claims can arise. The most obvious one is what people are familiar with, is claims involving motor vehicles and personal injury. But there's also slip and fall cases where people get injured on premises or property. There may be an assault claim where someone has intentionally injured somebody. And then there's claims that involve people that are working, and sometimes those involve motor vehicle cases as well, and there's a workers' compensation aspect to that. And if it ends up being a worker-worker where 2 workers are involved in the process that led to the injury, then they're barred under the Workers' Compensation Act, and you have to proceed through workers' compensation.
How common is the slip and fall claim? You hear about those ones, but are they common?
They are common. They're difficult claims in many respects because oftentimes they involve some fault on the part of the injured party, in the sense that they slipped and fell because they didn't see something that was obviously there, or they slip and fall on ice and it's obvious that there was ice there and yet they still fell on it. And so there's oftentimes a degree of contribution on behalf of the injured party that has to be assessed.
Do people talk about slipping on the sidewalk? What about if your sidewalk in front of your house is not properly shoveled? Is that one that's also that does come to fruition occasionally?
Well, certainly it does, because you have an obligation as a homeowner to clean your sidewalks if it's a place where the public is normally expected to use or be on. It gets more of a gray area when someone's come on to your property where they're not supposed to be, or they're trespassing and they get injured while they're trespassing. You know, there's another aspect to that which becomes more complicated, obviously, because you're doing something as an injured party that you shouldn't maybe have been doing.
What are the different types of damages that a person may be entitled to?
Well, we talked about that in the motor vehicle cases, and obviously the injury one is the most important. And as we had discussed last time, that's the one that delays these cases, because people have to get better if they've been injured before you can assess what the claim is worth, because you need to know what the end of the story is before you try to settle a claim or proceed to trial with it. So that's often a delaying factor. But what people should know is that in Canada, unlike the United States, there's a limit on injury damages. And it was set by the Supreme Court of Canada in 1972 in 3 cases that they decided. And at that time, it was set at $100,000. With inflation now, it's probably closer to about $340,000. But that's for the worst injury that you can imagine, whatever that might be. In the United States, there is no cap on those sorts of things. There is in some jurisdictions, but in others there isn't. And so if it's a judge or a jury in particular, they can award whatever they think is appropriate, which might be quite a bit more. And so you hear about these cases in the United States where these huge damage awards occur, and quite honestly, they simply won't happen in Canada.
Speaking with Lay Peterson of Morelli Chertko and It's The Law, how are the amount of damages assessed?
Well, as we discussed about the upper limit in Canada, all of the injury damages, in other words, the amounts paid for people being injured, have to be assessed as against that upper limit. The other claims don't. So if someone is injured and, for instance, can't go back to work again ever, then the claim is going to be, or potentially going to be, very large. if you injure somebody who earns a significant income and they're a young person for the rest of their life, that could be a very large number. Similarly, cost of future care. If somebody's injured very badly and they require nursing care or home assistance and they need that for the rest of their life, or they need specific renovations to their home or special vehicles, those claims can get quite large as well. So obviously each case is dependent on its own facts, and it takes time obviously to go through that and sort them out as to what the various damages would be valued at.
So what is the time frame? I guess it's kind of varied, is it not?
It varies totally, and it depends in large part on how long it takes people to recover. You need to know what the end of the story is before you can put on the play, so to speak, because there's no ending. You don't know how the case is going to end up either. And so we get people to the point where you're either better, you think they're going to be better, you have a prognosis as to what's going to be left as far as impairment in the future, and then you can start assessing these cases. And that can take 6 months, but it could also take 4 years.
Well, this has been great, and it's always nice to get free legal advice. Anything else that you can add regarding personal injury claims?
Well, they're unique, and I always tell people it's worthwhile calling a lawyer and talking to them and getting some free advice, and at least understanding what the options are and how the parameters of these cases operate, because they're complicated and it's a one-shot deal for people. They should know what the abilities they have to pursue these cases are, because once they're resolved or go to trial, they're over and you can't go back a second time.
Thanks again, Lay.
Thank you very much.
There's Lay Peterson, managing partner of Morelli Churtko on It's the Law.